In on that, we are now joined by Anurag Singh, managing partner, Ansit Capital, who's now joining in. Hi, Anurag. Thank you so much. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us today. Anurag, top story of the day: Trump slapping a 25% tariff on India. Now, it's not just surprised India, but the rest of the world, because if there was any country that could have struck a better deal, it was really India. And now, with the announcement of a 25% tariff, do you really think this is some sort of a pressure tactic that Trump is using to pressure India into negotiating a deal that he wants, and this is more temporary in nature?
Ankita, good morning to you and to your viewers. I'm a little surprised when you say that India was in a best position to strike a deal because everybody else, pretty much in the top 10 traders with United States, every country has struck a deal except India. So I think it was imminent now, that some kind of a tariff is coming. Because look, threats can work only to a while, only to a point. But once there was a deadline, if Trump would have deferred even this deadline, then it would have really looked pretty ugly on him. So I think it's fair. It's not a big deal. I think that's a choice India made. I don't think it's a pressure tactics, of course. If tomorrow India gives in what the administration is expecting it to, given in or in terms of open the sectors that it is trying to, of course, the tariffs would come down from 25 to a 20, and it can even come down to a 15, subject to what the India is willing to open. But Ankita, it's not very clear what India was willing to offer, and that's where I'm at a loss. We've heard of red lines that India is not okay with this and that and all of that, but we are not very clear what India was willing to give in. And I think in the absence of that, it's not a big deal. If that's a choice India made, it's fine. We should be fine with it and move on. It's not, ultimately, 25%, half of that could be absorbed by the Indian exporters, and the rest could be absorbed by the American importers. That's okay. I find it as a conscious choice that the country made, which we should be okay with.
Okay. Hi, Anurag. This is Kanishka also joining in. Like you've said, it's a conscious choice that India has made. But, India and US, they have been talking for a long time. And as we have heard, a next round of talks is due later in August as well, when the US delegation is expected to come to India. So now, with the announcement coming yesterday about that 25% tariff, do you see that, there's been a breakdown of the talks going ahead, or is it just a negotiating tactic?
No, there's no breakdown here, right? Let's just understand that every country in the world has got nearly 20% tariffs, right? So India getting 25, it's not a big deal because look, every other country, look at Philippines, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam. Look at European Union. They got 15% when they opened everything from US, to pretty much a free trade. So in that sense, I think if India got 25 and it did not have to open anything of its economy to the US imports, aside of what it is already importing currently, right, which India wants. I think it's a fine deal, right? It's not, but having said this, I think if the delegation comes in now, I think what's on the table is only that limited discussion about what are we going to do about that 40 billion trade deficit. So understand, India exports about $85 billion of goods to US. India imports about 45. So that leaves that 40 billion of trade deficit that US is facing. And I'm sure the administration would say that you got to buy something else to bridge this 40 billion. That's the discussion. And I think it probably will go towards more, buying more planes from Boeing or more energy from US, which is unlikely, but because it will not be at that price. So basically buying more aircrafts from US or buying more defense equipments. And either of that would be okay for India, right? It's not that India doesn't need aircrafts or defense equipments. It does, right? So that can help balance the trade, my sense.
Right. Interesting point there, Anurag, that perhaps to cover up for the massive trade deficit that is on account of India, perhaps India will also have to make some purchases to make up for that and then strike a deal perhaps. But on that note, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us.